Before the show starts, drop a comment below with where you're watching from. Then sit back, relax, and get ready for some chilling stories. I was in Albuquerque for a short training course, just a week. Instead of staying at a hotel, I rented a room through a home-sharing app. Nothing fancy. The place was in a quiet residential area with a separate entrance. The host barely spoke. Honestly, I liked that. On my third night, I matched with a woman on a dating app. Her name was Chloe. Pretty friendly, kind of low-key. Said she lived less than 3 miles from where I was staying. We messaged for hours. Around 10 p.m., she invited me over. Said she didn't like bars and preferred to talk somewhere quiet. Her place sounded better than sitting alone in my room. She sent me the address, a dark brick house on a corner lot. When I pulled up, the porch light was on, but barely. The street was dead quiet. No cars. No people. She opened the door before I even knocked. Smiling. Friendly. She looked just like her pictures, but there was something off in her eyes. Like she was playing a role. Inside, the house was almost empty. A couch, a small table with 2 glasses of wine already poured. The TV was on mute, playing some cooking show. She offered me a drink. I said I'd already had one earlier and was good. She insisted. I refused again. That's when I noticed something strange. Only one of the glasses was poured. The other had been empty seconds ago. It looked staged, like it was filled after I arrived, not before. I got a weird feeling. I stayed cool, kept the conversation going, but something in the back of my mind told me to stay sharp. She asked about my job, my family, if anyone knew I was in town. It felt like she was checking boxes. I pretended to get a text and said I needed to use the bathroom. She pointed down the hall. The bathroom was clean. Too clean. Almost unused. The room next to it had the door cracked open. Inside, sitting on the edge of the bed, was a man in a ski mask, scrolling through a phone. He didn't even look up. He just muttered, "Close the door." I stepped back slowly, heart pounding, and walked calmly back toward the living room. She was still smiling. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just realized I left something in my car." I walked to the front door. It was locked with a deadbolt. No key in sight. I tried to play it cool. "Hey, I'm actually gonna head out. Early morning." She stood up. "Wait, don't you want to stay a little longer?" That's when I heard heavy footsteps in the hallway behind me. I didn't wait. I bolted for the kitchen, found the back window cracked open, and pushed through it. Ripped my jacket on the screen, landed hard on the dirt, and ran. Jumped 2 fences, cut through someone's yard, and kept running until I reached a gas station. My friend called me 5 minutes later. He had gotten my text earlier saying, "If I don't respond in 30 minutes, call me." I told the cops everything. When they got to the house, it was empty. Cleaned out. No Chloe. No masked man. No sign of anything. A few weeks later, I found out 2 other guys had gone through something similar in the same part of town. One of them woke up in a field without his wallet, phone, or memory of what happened. Since then, I never meet anyone without doing a video call first. And I never accept wine that's already poured. After I left my ex, I just wanted quiet. No more screaming, no more hiding bruises with makeup, no more pretending everything was fine. I took what little savings I had and found a small apartment in a gated complex just outside Santa Rosa. It wasn't fancy, but it felt safe. Clean. Controlled. The neighbors mostly kept to themselves. A lot of retirees, a few young couples, 1 or 2 single moms. The property manager, Marla, was warm and welcoming, even helped carry my boxes up. She told me my unit had just been vacated by another woman, but didn't say much else. I didn't ask. The apartment itself was strange. Too quiet. Not the good kind. The layout was narrow, with only one window facing the parking lot. The bedroom window looked directly across at another unit, curtains always drawn. I never saw anyone come in or out, just a porch light that stayed on all night. It took about a week before I noticed the man. Tall, maybe mid-40s, thin. He'd stand behind his window, barely visible, just enough to catch his silhouette in the glow of his TV. Sometimes I'd feel like he was watching me, especially when I walked past my own window. One night, I left a dish towel on the balcony railing. The next morning, it was folded neatly and left at my door. At first, I convinced myself it was a kind gesture. Maybe Marla, a neighbor? But it happened again. A hair clip I dropped on the stairs. A receipt I tossed in the trash. They kept showing up at my door, clean, folded, sometimes wrapped in tissue paper. I started sleeping with the lights on. I asked Marla about the guy across the way. She hesitated before saying, "Oh, that's Mr. Eckhart. He's been here a long time. Keeps to himself." When I pressed further, her tone changed. "It's best not to get involved in other people's habits, dear. This is a quiet community." The message was clear, don't ask. A few nights later, I woke up to a noise like soft scraping. I sat up and listened. It was coming from inside my apartment. I grabbed a flashlight and crept through the hallway. Kitchen? Empty. Bathroom? Nothing. Then I noticed my bedroom closet door slightly open. I swear I had closed it. When I opened it, nothing was there, except the faint smell of mildew, and a small hole in the back wall, like something had been pushed through the drywall and patched poorly. The next morning, I took a screwdriver and carefully widened the hole. Behind it was a narrow space, an old maintenance duct. And inside, I found a camera, not wireless, hardwired, tucked into a dusty corner, pointed directly at my bed. I called the police. They came, took statements, but said without fingerprints or active footage, there wasn't much they could do. They mentioned past complaints in the complex, but nothing actionable. I packed a bag that night and stayed in a motel. The next morning, Marla called me. Not to check if I was okay, just to say I'd violated the lease by tampering with the structure. I posted everything I had online. Photos of the camera, the receipts that kept appearing, even screenshots from a subreddit where someone mentioned weird things happening in that same complex. Within 48 hours, the post exploded. Other women messaged me. One had lived in my exact unit 5 years earlier. She left after waking up with the same feeling, being watched. Another said her dog wouldn't stop barking at the vents. When I went back to grab the rest of my stuff, the man's porch was dark. He never reappeared. The complex went up for sale 2 months later. To this day, I wonder how many others sat in that same apartment, thinking it was just paranoia. I hadn't spoken to Paul in over 10 years. We were best friends in elementary school, drifted apart after high school, and completely lost contact in college. No falling out, just life. So when he messaged me out of nowhere, "Hey man, still alive? I've got a cabin now. Come visit." I hesitated, but I was between jobs, recently single, and feeling nostalgic. So I said yes. He picked me up from the nearest bus stop in his old beat-up Jeep. Looked different, thinner, a little more tired around the eyes, but still Paul. Same crooked smile, same sarcastic energy. "Dude," he said, grinning, "you haven't changed a bit." The cabin was about 20 miles outside town. No neighbors, just trees, gravel roads, and silence. I liked it at first. Peaceful. He gave me a beer the second we walked in, told me to make myself at home. The place was cozy, with panel walls, weird hunting decor, a bunch of VHS tapes stacked near a dusty old TV. That first night, we caught up, laughed about dumb stuff from school, played cards. It felt easy, like no time had passed. But something shifted the next day. It started with little things. He'd stare at me a beat too long during conversation, ask questions that felt loaded. You ever think about that day in 5th grade, when we locked Jake in the supply closet? I blinked. Not really. That was messed up. He smiled, but his eyes didn't. Messed up for you, maybe. That night, he made dinner, some kind of chili, but he didn't eat any. Just sat across from me, watching while I ate. "You don't remember everything, do you?" he asked quietly. I paused. What's that supposed to mean? He just shook his head and said, "It's okay. You will." Later, I went to bed early. I couldn't shake this creeping feeling. I couldn't lock the door. There was no lock. Just a handle. I pushed a chair up under it anyway. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to floorboards creaking. Slow steps outside the door. Then a knock. "Eric," Paul whispered. "You awake?" I didn't respond. I just want to talk. We were friends. Best friends. You shouldn't have left me back then. Left him? I held my breath, barely moving. The doorknob jiggled, then stopped. I waited a full hour before moving the chair and slipping out the window. The Jeep keys were gone. My phone had no service. I started walking down the gravel road in the dark, using the moonlight to guide me. After about 3 miles, I saw a light, a barn in the distance. The farmer inside called the cops. When they got to Paul's place, he acted confused. Said he hadn't seen me in days. Said I must have wandered off drunk. When they found my backpack, stuffed behind a shed, he shrugged. Just a misunderstanding, he told them. Old friends. Sometimes things get emotional. They couldn't charge him with anything. I didn't have proof of what happened. No recording. No injury. Just my word. When I got back to the city, I blocked every account I could find with his name on it. A few weeks later, I got a handwritten letter in the mail. No return address. It just said, "You never said sorry." I took the job because it seemed easy. 2 weeks, live-in caregiver for an elderly woman in a countryside mansion. The family was going on vacation, and they didn't want to leave her alone. Meals, meds, basic hygiene. Simple enough. The pay was generous, too generous, honestly, but I didn't ask questions. At the time, I needed the money. The house was huge, old, isolated, surrounded by dense trees, with a gravel driveway that creaked every time you pulled in. I was greeted by Mrs. Whitaker, early 80s, frail, soft-spoken. Her eyes never seemed to focus properly. She'd smile at the wall, pause mid-sentence. But she was kind. She called me darling, and held my hand too long. Her son, Richard, was the one who hired me. He gave me a brief rundown of her routine, handed me a packet of instructions, and said they'd be gone completely off-grid during their trip. She takes her meds 3 times a day. Don't skip a dose, he said, and don't let her stay up too late. She talks nonsense when she's tired. That was day 1. By day 3, I noticed things that didn't add up. First, the pills, no labels. Just plain white bottles with color-coded caps. Red for morning, yellow for lunch, blue for bedtime. No dosages. No prescription labels. When I asked about it, Richard had already left. The number he gave me went straight to voicemail. Second, the doctor. There was a scheduled check-in via video call every 2 days. A man named Dr. Elliot. But the camera was always off. Audio only. He never addressed me directly, only spoke to Mrs. Whitaker in short, rehearsed lines. You're doing well. Keep taking your medicine. Don't ask too many questions. By day 5, she started whispering to me after her evening pills. They're lying, she said. That's not my doctor. I asked her who he was, but she'd shake her head and drift off. One night, I skipped the blue pill. Just once. She stayed up late, more lucid than ever. I had a daughter, she said. They told me she died, but I don't remember her funeral. Her eyes welled up. She reached for a photo frame on her nightstand, just a stock photo of flowers. I think they took her from me. The next morning, I woke up and the blue bottle was gone, replaced with a new one. Same color cap, different size. No one had been inside. I always locked the door at night. I checked the security cameras. There were none. But the back door latch was undone, and muddy boot prints led to the kitchen. That night, I heard footsteps above me. There was no second floor, just attic space. When I climbed up with a flashlight, I found a mattress, food wrappers, and a phone charger. Someone had been living up there. I packed my things. Before I left, I tried to call the doctor again, this time from my own phone. No listing, no license, nothing. I searched medical databases, called clinics, even reached out to a friend who worked in a hospital system. No Dr. Elliot in the entire state. I called Adult Protective Services, reported everything. They said they'd look into it. A month later, I got a call. A polite woman thanked me for the report, said they visited the property and everything was within compliance. No signs of abuse, no evidence. They wouldn't tell me who was currently caring for Mrs. Whitaker. I checked the job board where I found the listing. The post was gone, but a new one was up. Same pay, same address, different name. New temporary caregiver needed. I didn't apply, but I kept the blue pill, just in case someone ever asks. I've worked as a building maintenance tech for over 15 years. Nothing glamorous, mostly fixing wiring, updating security systems, checking pipes. You'd be surprised how often people ignore problems until it's too late. That week, I got a call from a mid-sized apartment complex downtown. Old building, 20 stories, weird wiring from the 80s. They said their security system was down, and half the lights on the lower levels were flickering. I took the job. When I got there, the front desk guy, barely out of high school, didn't even look up. Just handed me a clipboard and pointed toward the basement where the main control room was. The place was a mess. Dust everywhere, panels open, wires tangled like spaghetti. I started troubleshooting, rewiring one circuit at a time. Took hours. By the end of the afternoon, I had partial power restored to the cameras. When I brought the monitors back online, I figured I'd check footage to make sure the system had been working before it went dark. That's when I saw it. 2 nights earlier, 2:36 a.m. Parking garage camera, level B2. A man dragging another man across the concrete floor. Limp. Unconscious. Blood. The attacker shoved the body into the back of a black SUV. The license plate wasn't visible, but the attacker? He was. I froze. It was one of the residents. I'd seen his face in the lobby that morning, middle-aged guy, fit, clean-cut. Wore a button-up and smiled like a politician. And then 10 minutes later, he walked into the control room. "I heard someone was working down here," he said casually. I nodded slowly, heart racing. "Yeah, just fixing the feeds." He looked at the monitors, smiled. "Glad to see they're back online." I didn't say a word. He walked closer, leaned against the wall like he belonged there. "You know, sometimes this building eats files, especially video. Hard drives fail, corrupt sectors, that sort of thing." I forced a smile. "Yeah, happens all the time." He stared at me for a long second, then turned and left. As soon as the door closed, I pulled the footage onto a USB stick I kept in my kit. Backed up everything. Hid it in my boot, grabbed my tools, and got out. That night, I didn't go home. I checked into a cheap motel on the edge of town. Sent an anonymous email to the police tip line with a copy of the video. The next day, I went back to the building to finish the job and collect my check. The front desk kid was gone. The security office? Cleaned out. Not just wiped, stripped. No monitors, no DVRs, no server racks. Like it had never existed. I asked the manager what happened. He blinked and said, "What security office?" I didn't go back after that. A week later, I got a text from an unknown number. "Thank you for your help. System fully restored." I moved cities a month later. New job, new number. Kept my head down. But last week, I got an envelope in my mailbox. No name, no return address. Inside was a printed photo. Me, sitting in that control room, watching the footage, and scrawled on the back in red ink, "You should have stayed out of it."